Call this meeting to order, and all other meetings of this committee are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the press in accordance with Wisconsin statutes, so the citizenry may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting. Roll call.
Appleby.
Here.
Nadowski.
Here.
And Litkey is excused.
Moving on, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November 7th, 2016 meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Next, citizens' appearance. Nothing. Next, discussion and possible action on yard waste site ordinance.
We've been talking about this since at least June, July last year. And we kind of put it on the wayside when we had a couple other ordinances pop up. As I had mentioned in the past, we don't have a specific ordinance for the yard waste site. What we've had is more of like an illegal dumping ordinance. And so, I mean, if we ever had to handle it that way, we could. You know, we could probably police the yard waste site that way. This committee talked about getting a yard waste site ordinance on the books with a specific penalty for people that dump illegally, which could be non-residents. We've talked about businesses and what the impact might be on businesses if they're allowed or not allowed or licensed. I could say that I've talked to chair of the committee, Shaney, a little bit, and I think from my understanding, the importance right now is going to be to get an ordinance on the books and to take a look at what a basic penalty would be. Now, when it comes to businesses, I'm not sure if we want to further explore like a license for them to dump or a fine for them to dump, or maybe that's something that we pick up later to refine. But if we're looking at just getting an ordinance, one of the things that we would put in there is who's allowed. We've talked about residents of the city by permit. The permits are $1. With the budget for 2017, we didn't talk about raising that fee, partially because when we talked about the garbage fee, the garbage revenue, you'll hear me talk about the yard waste site being covered by that $13 a month. So we have a revenue source for that. But we'd be talking about who'd be allowed. You get a license for $1. The allowable, I guess, dumping items are brush, yard waste, garden waste, grass, in appropriate piles. The things that would not be allowed are metal, garbage, anything that would be illegally dumped by the illegal dumping ordinance anyway. And then from there, the other piece of the ordinance we'd be looking at is what is a penalty. And we've talked a little bit in the past about what is an appropriate amount. I believe the illegal dumping ordinance says that if we know who did it, we will make them clean it up, charge the cost to them if we have to do it, or charge them a fine. And the fine was somewhere like in the $120-some range. And the way we would typically roll that out is we would probably charge somebody the cost of cleanup plus the fine. So it would probably get up into the $150, $200 range if we use that. But then again, and I'm repeating myself from this committee here, but the other issue we've had with illegal dumping is that if it's something dumped illegally that we would already have at the yard waste site, there's probably really no cost to be able to assess to people because it's already getting rolled in with everything else there. So on that, we've talked a little bit about penalties and appropriate penalties, and I know you had some thoughts on setting those.
I was just talking with Keith a little bit too, and I was thinking more on the lines of just doing $200, because that seems to be what other municipalities are doing too, just so that we can get something on a board, get a sign out there, get this going. And I know you and I were talking about, well, if somebody were to, go into like a second or third offense, then we would just bring it up or discuss that at a different time, but just to get something out there and just get the ball rolling so that maybe we could kind of curve some of this stuff. And Keith and I were talking about with like the businesses and stuff, and I'm almost thinking that maybe I want to go with the fact that maybe they just didn't know type thing, so maybe posting a $200 fine, they're not going to want to have to pay a fine for doing something they're not supposed to, and I'm hoping that was maybe would help solve some of the issues. But if it's just a flat out $200 thing and people are driving up and they see this big sign, then maybe that would curve some of the issues that we're having out there already, because who's going to want to pay $200 right off the bat?
Which I'm good with that as well. I was just thinking when we were talking about is maybe just set up escalating penalties. So first offense this much, second offense this much, third offense this much. Have a couple of them already written down and put right into the ordinance. And then, at such offense, it'll go to, either a discussion or, further action or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how you'd write that in there to make it legal from an ordinance standpoint, but.
Yeah, and we can take a look at that. Right now in our current ordinances, I would pull it up, it's gonna take me probably more to look it up than it would to just explain it.
Yep.
But we already have general language, and you guys will remember
Yep.
this, cause I know you've reviewed it, where it says first offense between $50 and $500.
Yep.
Second offense, so we kind of already have that language in there.
Okay.
One of the things that I would be more in tune with is to try to get, if you have a first offense amount, I think that's important to set it for this, because what we'll look to do then is get new signage for the yard waste site before it opens this year, and then make it very clearly labeled at the entrance that if you dump illegally, and we'll lay out what's legal, residents with permit only, here's what's allowed.
Yep.
And if you dump illegal, according to those regulations, you can expect to have a $200 citation.
Yep.
So that's one of the big things. Now, if it's an escalating amount, I don't know that I would put all those on the sign at the door, but I would put
Nope.
some language that says
That's what I was thinking.
escalating or in accordance with this
Yeah,
first
and I didn't
time
know if we had to
plus
put some kind of
whatever.
reference on there to make sure that we encompass that, but,
Mhm.
you know, Shani and I were talking about it, if we put the $200, that's a big deterrent right there.
Yeah, I think so.
And then as long as we capture the fact that, hey, if you do this, it's
Mhm.
going to escalate and do something much more,
Mhm.
so.
No, that sounds good.
So, should we make a motion to, set the, fine at $200 for first offense? That way you can get the ball rolling? I will make that motion.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Do we need anything else on that?
No, so what we'll do, and we've got it typed up already, I apologize, I don't have it in front of me, but it's who's allowed.
Yep.
So we look at that for an ordinance, who would be allowed,
What's allowed?
what's not allowed, and a penalty, and then there'll probably be a reference to the other penalty section, which is the second offenses between
Yep.
this. So, and then I would fully anticipate that we'll take it back up here in the next couple months too, to add on to it if we need to.
Okay.
Okay.
So for right now, what we'll do then is we'll recommend a base ordinance that gets sent to council next Monday night with a first time offense penalty of $200. That sounds right?
Sounds right to me. Awesome. Okay, next is discussion on 2017 committee goals. I asked Patrick to put that in there just because I know there's been some stuff that we've been kind of touching base on, but not really finishing up. And so I would really like, by the time spring got here, to actually have it all cleaned up, and so that we're just starting fresh. And I know we have the whole ordinance with the weeds, and we also have the one with, you know, the cutting of the grass over around by the lake as
Yeah,
well.
How far?
How far, or, you know, just so that we can get it settled and just be,
And just
Done with
to
it.
refresh on that, I know one thing we talked about, and I don't know if you were involved in that one or not, but, so the way it's worded now is worded with specific weeds, so in other words, we have to get a, smart person in to say this
Mhm.
weed, that weed, this weed, and people can get around that by saying only cut these weeds, which
Mhm.
then makes it extremely difficult. So one thing we talked about, and I don't know if you ever had a chance to check on it, was whether or not there was a certain amount of footage, you know, that we could say, okay, so at a minimum of, 2 feet from the waterfront, it has to be cut to the regular standards or something like that,
Mhm.
and whether or not another community had something similar that we could kind of draft off of.
Yeah, so I did put it out there, and I talked to Shani about this too.
Okay.
I put it out for comment and review, and it sounds like there's a lot of different things that are out there. And so right now, if we would just stick with our ordinance the way it is, it says all grass, once it hits 8 inches on residential property, has to get cut. So that's the way the ordinance is now. And now goals, I don't mean to put that in there as a goals, it's more what are the topics you want to
Yep.
deal with. That would be one of them. Obviously today, with the snow and everything, it's not as prevalent, but it'll be coming soon.
Yep.
But yeah, right now it's any residential grass has to be cut at 8 inches. So if that's what we want to affirm with the committee, that's what we can enforce. Or if you want some kind of a buffer,
Yeah.
or the other thing that's out there is part of our ordinance allows people to apply for a natural landscaped area. So if they didn't want to cut down to the grass, you can apply for it, but what they don't want those for that to be overrun with like weeds and that. So we do have an ordinance that says that if you have a management plan and you put in good weeds or not good weeds, I'm sorry,
Good plants.
good plants, there you go. That you can get a permit for that, I guess a permit to not cut your grass or to keep it as more of a natural landscape. But there's a lot of other communities that say, you know, maybe there's a little bit of a 6-inch buffer, 3 foot, whatever it would be.
Yeah,
One of
no,
the things Shani and I talked about was, you know, getting some kind of a recommendation from the DNR on what they like to see.
Yep.
Would
'Cause
probably be helpful because we've heard different things.
That was the one concern that we talked about too, is that
Mhm.
some of the weeds you're not supposed to cut, because they can
Right.
then get into the water and cause this, that, and the other thing. So,
Yeah, so as part of goals and focus, I think that's probably a good thing to take a look at over the next month or two. Maybe for next month's meeting, that'll be where the topics will be. I would say grass, weeds, specifically with waterfront, and taking a look at our list of noxious weeds and seeing whether that's
Just
Up
so
to
we could,
speed
yeah,
and-
just so we could get things kinda,
Yep.
so we're not having to sit and have a conversation every year about weeds. We can just say this is it and we've done our research and call that. Is there anything else that you would like?
The only other thing I was gonna think about was, making sure that we continue to refine and follow up on the list.
Yep.
You know, we have the mighty list that went out.
Yep.
Letters that went out, but then
Yep.
having to follow up on those as well, which I know that, you know, some of them we've talked about, but just making sure that that continues.
Mhm. Yep.
And then, well, I don't need to bring it up here. I was just thinking, about things in yards and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Whether or not we needed to, refine some of that based on what we found out when we were working on that property on Maine.
On Maine. Oh,
Yeah, so was there?
nice development today too.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that we can define better in our ordinances to help us to manage properties like that. I know it's kind of a
Yeah.
slippery slope, but just something to look at.
Yep.
I don't even know what that would fall under though. Just basic junk in the yard. There's certain limitations with like vehicles and things like that that are covered in ordinances and that they have to
Yeah.
be in a covered building. But with just general things, I don't know how we go about defining that or where that would fall in there, but
I'm with you on that.
it's something to
because- so as we're
discuss.
looking at-
I just
as-
don't know where it goes.
Yeah, so that list that we had that you talk about, a lot of those are pretty obvious things that,
Yep.
a lot of it was pretty obvious, but there's a lot that people have playgrounds for their kids and toys for the kids, and I guess there's a difference in having a playground set and some bikes and stuff like that, as opposed to 25 bikes and 6 playground sets when there's only so many kids that are there, so.
Yeah.
That's a gray area, I think, but I
Let's-
think
I
you
bring
could
it
look
up-
at it
I
and
bring
you
it
could
up for
say,
something to
yes, this makes
discuss.
sense. Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
I think it's something to look at just because it gets out of hand sometimes, as we've seen.
oh, for sure.
So
Mhm.
if we can figure out a way to define it legally, it would be a win for us.
Yep. Okay,
Those are the only items I can think of.
Yeah, that's-
sounds good to me.
Okay.
That's
Well,
enough
it's
to
just-
keep
it's
us
a
rolling
really-
anyway.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it'll give us topics to discuss for sure.
Yeah, right. Administrators report.
I don't have too much to report other than, obviously the city council did approve that plan for the Peterson property, and so we'll stay on that. We'll make sure that we're making sure that they're following the plan and follow up with them if we need to too, so.
Just to be clear, and when I was getting votes, that property's in 1, 2.
It's in one,
Yeah.
Ward 1?
Yeah,
I wonder if the way it works is,
because it goes all the way down. It takes that little finger.
I think it takes to the, yeah,
takes the finger and everything over.
okay.
So unless the map was incorrect, that was in the packet. But
No, the map should be good.
okay,
The
so
map should be good.
just a little clarification. I found
So
out.
there
I
you
didn't
go.
know either. So
Yeah, it's kinda, I think across the street is,
across the street is something.
and then across the bridge for sure is,
Yeah.
so it's, okay.
Gets kind of quirky the way it's cut out
Yeah.
there for
Oh,
3
all
and
the
2.
wards do too, even for 2 and 3, it's kinda,
Yeah, once
back
you
and
get down
forth
that
over
way,
here,
it gets
yeah.
a little odd.
Okay,
that's all you got?
that's all I have.
Oh,
yeah.
wow, okay. And such other matters as authorized by law? I don't
I
have
have
any.
none except for to clarify it, that's all I have because the other things I have related to ordinances and Main Street houses are not
Yes.
not inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
You will be advised probably by the police department tomorrow night on new developments,
Okay.
daily, weekly,
Okay.
so I'll leave that
Mm-hmm.
for tomorrow. I don't wanna steal Jerry's report, so I'll make sure he's got one. That's all I got.
Okay.
All right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3:22.